All right, so today we're jumping into something pretty fascinating, the intersection of faith and finance. We're going to break down 7 key verses from the Bible that people often turn to when they talk about financial wisdom and, well, prosperity. Let's get into it.
So let's start with the big, bold question, right? Can this ancient book actually make you rich in, say, 2026? I mean, can Scripture really hold a blueprint for modern wealth? That's the core idea we're going to explore today, based on what the source material says.
But right off the bat, we have to hit the brakes a little. The source material makes a really important point. This is not some kind of get-rich-quick formula. No verse guarantees riches. Instead, it's all about a set of principles, things like diligence, wise management of your resources, and just a whole different way of looking at the world. It's about wisdom, not some magic wand.
So where do we even begin? Well, according to the texts we're looking at, it doesn't start with an action. It starts with a mindset. Before you even get to the what to do, you gotta focus on how to think.
And this verse from Matthew, well, it's pretty much presented as the cornerstone of this entire philosophy. It sets up a really clear order of priorities, and you gotta notice the order because it's critical. Seek first the kingdom and righteousness, and then after that, it says all these things, the material stuff, will follow.
And that perfectly sums up what we can call the seek first principle. See, in this view, prosperity isn't the thing you're supposed to be chasing directly. It's framed more like a byproduct, something that happens as a result of focusing on a completely different, higher goal. It's a total shift in focus.
Okay, so if that's the big picture mindset, how does that actually play out in real life? With those priorities straight, the sources point to 3 key principles for managing what you have. The whole concept is called stewardship.
And these 3 ideas are all connected. You've got wise saving. That's about what you keep. Generous giving, that's about what goes out. And honoring God, that's about remembering where it all comes from in the first place. Let's dig into each one.
First up, wise saving. And man, this verse from Proverbs doesn't mince words, does it? It paints this super clear picture, contrasting someone who plans ahead with someone who just, well, lives for the moment and consumes everything right away. So what does that really mean in practice? Well, it's not just about hoarding your money. It's about being smart, looking ahead, building a safety net. And really getting that financial stability isn't just about how much you earn, it's about how well you plan.
The second principle is all about generous giving. This verse introduces this really cool dynamic, almost like a cycle between receiving and giving. The key word here is abundantly, which suggests that resources are meant to flow through you, not just to you. And this is the key takeaway, right? The whole point of having abundance in this framework isn't just so you can be comfortable. It's to empower you to abound in every good work. In other words, to have the resources to be generous. It's about being a conduit, not just a dead-end reservoir.
And that brings us to the third piece of stewardship, honoring the source of your wealth. This verse talks about firstfruits, which is basically the idea of giving the first and the best of what you have, not just the leftovers from what you don't need anymore.
And this is such a powerful idea, isn't it? It's a real-world, tangible demonstration of that seek first principle we started with. By dedicating the first part of your income, you're making a statement that God, not your paycheck, is your true provider and your #1 priority.
Okay, so we've got the mindset and we've got the practical steps of stewardship, but the verses we're looking at point to one more crucial thing, the ultimate source of the ability to create wealth in the first place.
Wow. This verse is about as direct as it gets. It basically says, yeah, you work hard, you've got skills, you've got a strategy, but don't forget who gave you the power or the ability to do all that to begin with.
And this really breaks it down nicely. The perspective isn't that you just sit back and do nothing. It's that your effort, your skills, your hard work are seen as being empowered and made effective by a higher power. It's more of a partnership than a one-person show.
Now, this next verse from Proverbs adds a really interesting twist. It describes a certain quality to the wealth that comes from this divine blessing. And check out that specific phrase, without painful toil.
Now, hold on, that doesn't mean no work. The key distinction here is the word painful. The idea is that this type of wealth is different. It's supposed to come with a sense of peace, not the kind of crushing, soul-sucking anxiety that can often come with just chasing money.
And finally, we have this verse from Philippians, which is so often quoted as a promise of provision. It's really a statement of ultimate security, framing God as the one who will meet all needs.
But what's really important to notice here is the wording,
The verse says all your needs, not necessarily all your wants. So this is often interpreted as a promise for security and sufficiency across all areas of life, not just a blank check for luxury. It's about being provided for, which is a bit different from just being made rich.
Okay, so we've looked at all these different pieces. Where does that leave us? Let's zoom out for a second and see what kind of picture of prosperity this really paints when you put it all together.
What we get is this really holistic blueprint. It starts with a mindset. Put spiritual priorities first. That mindset then leads to actions, stewardship, saving wisely, giving generously, and honoring the source. And the whole thing is held up by faith, acknowledging God as the ultimate source of both the power to get wealth and the provision for life's needs.
And that kind of brings us full circle to a final, thought-provoking question. The source material consistently links material wealth to these deeper things like wisdom, purpose, and faith. So it really forces you to ask, what if true prosperity is a much richer concept, one that has more to do with peace and purpose than just the number you see in your bank account?